Welcome to Oregon Voters Digest, the program that brings forward the social and political issues that are important to people living here in the Pacific Northwest. And now, your host, Bruce Broussard.
Welcome again to this segment of the Oregon Voters Digest. I'm Bruce Broussard, your host. Again, as you may know, come November, we'll be voting for one of two candidates running for Portland City Council. Isn't that something? Replacing Dan Salmon. And today I'll be interviewing one of those candidates, Ann Hardesty. The other candidate, Loretta Smith, has at this time declined my invitation. Okay, be right up front of you, to interview on Oregon Voters Digest. Again, I'm reading this piece because I want to make it very clear that I am the host this time, and she is the guest. I mean, I had to do this. I had to write this down, so she'll clearly know that I'm the host, because I know she would question me about this piece. But I want you to know that I'm doing this. This is a very, very important race for the city of Portland.
Yes,
we've got some major issues here, and in all due respect, that's what race we're going to address this. The other thing is that it's very important that we know the candidate, and the people of Portland know the candidates. Very, very, very important. And so that's the way we're going to handle this particular interview with Ann Hardesty. Been knowing Joanne for quite some time, and we sort of like went the same trail to a certain degree, because in all due respect, she has been a host for years, and vice versa, and been very active in politics and the like. So, like I say, so stick with us, and we're going to spend this time, and these are going to be some good times. And the bottom line is that hopefully you will share this with your friends, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. If you're a voter, you've made it very clear to me, and I've talked to some people and said, Bruce, well, who is she? And she's come to Portland. How long has she been in here? When did she get in politics? How did she get in this activity? How did she get this? I mean, there are many questions. But the way we're going to do is that we're going to let Joanne tell her story.
All right.
We're going to tell her. She's going to tell her story, and so that's how we're going to start this deal. But I tell you what, I've got a couple of things I'm going to just run right at the beginning.
All right.
I think we'll kind of set the tone.
All right.
This is when you were you in the legislature.
Okay.
And there was a couple of things that you've done, and I'm just going to go on and just say, let's run them now. Mike, are you there at the camera there? Let's run. We got 4 different clips here. This is going to take us about maybe 6 or 7 minutes.
Oh, okay.
But I think this is a surprise.
I'll just kick back.
That's right. And see what you think about this.
All right.
Okay. Let's run them, Mike. Okay. There we go.
I want to tell you this great story. So my very first day in the legislative body, all the pomps and circumstances over, and I'm up in the legislative lounge, which only legislators can go in. And so I go up to the lounge looking for a snack, and I've got my head in the refrigerator, and I hear this person behind me going, "What are you doing in here? You can't be in here. This is just for legislators." And so for about 5 seconds, I'm like, well, am I going to be the good Joanne Bowman, or am I going to be the mean Joanne Bowman, right? And then I turned around and put the biggest smile on my face and said, "Hi, I'm Representative Bowman. Who are you?" And the guy started sputtering, and he's turning purple. And then finally he says, "Oh, but you look so young." Now, no one I've ever told this story to thought that the reason he challenged me was because I was young, right? But what's interesting about that story is this gentleman became my biggest ally in the legislative session, because he was able to walk away from that encounter with his dignity, right? And so it just so happened we served on several committees together that dealt with criminal justice. And so throughout my legislative career, I didn't have to be in the room when he would say, if Representative Bowman was here, she would say that this would have a negative impact on kids of color if we passed this legislation. If Joanne Bowman was here, she would say that there's overrepresentation of kids of color in our criminal justice system. He became one of my biggest allies, right? And so that was one of those kind of life lessons, right, that I think my mom would have been proud that I learned, which is I could have made an enemy that day for life, or I could have made a friend for life. And how wonderful that I made a friend for life that day that became a strong advocate for the things that I cared about during my legislative term.
Do you really?
I don't remember the interview, but I do remember.
You remember that story?
Yes.
Okay, good. Let's do another one. We're gonna go right now. We got, like I said, we got about 3 clips, but I thought I'd share this on the front end.
Cool.
Okay.
All right.
Go on. Let's hit the other one.
Maybe it's my practice from working in the legislative body when I was in a minority party the whole time I was there. And one of the things that I promised myself in my first term was that I was going to find something in common with everybody. And that was a little challenging with some of my legislative colleagues, but I could always find something that we had in common. Even the most right-wing conservative legislator, I could find we had music in common, or we had military service in common, or we had large families in common. You could always find something in common with people, and I think if you remember that you're actually dealing with humans, and it's the humanity that you're trying to tap into, that ultimately you can have the hard conversation, and you can talk about the tough stuff, but you have to actually be able to see people as humans, right? You can't see them as the enemy or they're out to get me, because I think most of our societal problems are based on ignorance. Not based on people's genuinely just wanting to hurt other people, but it's really based on ignorance. And people don't know what they don't know. And so any opportunity you have to really help people educate themselves and learn more about communities that they're not familiar with, the better we all are.
It's wonderful to follow an economist, because now I don't have to go into all those kind of details. So I will just kind of talk a little bit about how this economic crisis has impacted regular working people and low-income people throughout the United States of America. I think one of the things we can all agree on is that our world has suffered one of the most severe economic collapses since the Great Depression. We must act quickly to really protect those who are most vulnerable and to prevent the crisis from really spinning out of control. But we also need to take a moment to reflect on what went wrong, what ideas led to this disaster, and what principles should replace them. This is no time for us to be small thinkers. We have an opportunity to really fashion an economy that works for us all. And we're a country that changes political leadership every 4 years. We have presidential elections. We have new Congress that take office. And so sometimes we have political leaders that are thinking more about the greater good. Other times we have political leaders who are thinking about only the people with money and power and privilege. We're not quite sure where we are now. We're hopeful that we're better off today than we were, say, a couple of years ago. And we're moving into a more harmonious, collective good. But it's still early to tell, right? We're still involved in many things that many American people would like us not to be involved in. And so the good news, as a former state legislator, it was my job to actually represent the people who didn't have a voice at that table, to bring their concerns to the greater group, and then collectively figure out what was going to work best for the people that were voiceless, that were not in the room, that did not have a say in how the government decisions were going to impact their life.
All right, we got a couple more. Go on. We got one more? We got one more. We got one more. Okay. Very interesting about her background. That's it? Okay, good. That's it.
All
That could give you sort of a feel about, in fact, these were in the archives that I'd not even known exist. Isn't that interesting?
That is interesting.
That's a very interesting piece. I don't think anybody knew that about you. Just certainly, huh?
All I have to do is Google.
I like. Joe, look, let's go back now, and like I said before, let's talk about you. Let's talk about you. Let's talk about going to school. Let's talk about where you're from. I mean, some of the things that you liked when you were growing up, whatever you want to talk about that way. And let's just move on that way. And then from that point on, you're coming to Oregon. And how'd you get to Oregon? Why would you pick Oregon to come to Portland, Oregon, of all places in the Pacific Northwest? I sort of remember those times when they told me I was going recruiting to the Pacific Northwest. They said, Oregon. I said, where is that? I said, Washington. I thought it was D.C. but it wasn't.
And you found out it wasn't.
It wasn't.
Yes.
That's right. But it's here, and it's great. And then so let's talk about that.
So I was born in Baltimore.
Talk to me. Okay, Baltimore.
Baltimore, Maryland. And I'm from a large family. I'm from a family of 10. So I have 6 brothers who are younger than me and 3 sisters who are older than me. And my dad was a longshoreman. My mom stayed at home. And I had a wonderful childhood. My dad, thank goodness he was a longshoreman because we were homeowners. And, in fact, we integrated the side of the street that my parents bought their second home in.
Oh, really?
Yes. Because in Baltimore, there were mediums, and there would be row houses on one side of the street, and that's where the black folks lived. And then on the other side of the street, the big detached houses were where the white people lived, right? And the day we moved in, for sale signs went up on both sides. I was out, welcome to the neighborhood side, right?
Okay.
But there was a dentist that was on the corner, and he had his practice from there. He came down, knocked on the door. Hi, I'm dentist so-and-so. I'm Dr. So-and-so. I'm a dentist. My practice is on the corner. I'm not going anywhere, right? And he was there until he died.
Wow.
So I grew up in a community that was predominantly black. And so wherever I looked, people looked like me were doing everything, right? And I loved growing up in Baltimore. I mean, it's a vibrant city, blues, everything, right? But graduated high school.
Very nice. Okay.
Edmondson High School in Baltimore, Maryland.
Okay.
And when I graduated high school, I started going to college part-time. I was working at Social Security. And then I was working like 3 jobs and going to school, and it just became too much, right? And I was like, I got to quit all these jobs. I'm going to join the military.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Come on.
And that was during the time you might remember, because we're not that far apart in age.
Oh, I like that. I like that part. Okay.
That was during the time that Vietnam vets were coming back.
Okay.
And you may know they had veterans preference for jobs at Social Security. And so I got a job in my 11th grade year. My family thought I was set for life, good government job. I could just go to that cubicle for 35 years and get my gold watch, and off I'd go, right? But I wanted to see something else. I was pretty sure there was something outside of Baltimore.
Okay.
So started going to college, became overwhelmed, and just quit everything and said, I'm joining the military.
And what branch was that?
Well, I was going to join the Air Force, except I weighed 5 pounds under the minumum weight for the Air Force.
Okay.
And the Navy recruiter heard the Air Force recruiter reject me.
Almost sounds like me.
And he took me out to breakfast and fattened me up and weighed me, and I just squeaked through, right? Yes. And that's how I became a member of the Navy.
Wow.
Loved my time in the Navy. I served as one of the first women to serve on board ship.
Really?
USS Samuel Gompers.
Wow. What was your MOS doing at the time?
I worked in personnel.
Personnel?
Yes.
Oh, you were dangerous.
Well, and I was smart because I knew I wanted to be clean.
Yeah.
I knew I didn't want to shoot anybody.
Sure? Oh.
But I went to personnel school in Meridian, Mississippi.
Oh, my God.
I'll tell you that story one day, but we don't have enough time today.
Right.
But anyway, spent 4.5 years in the Navy. Went to Mombasa, Kenya, which is probably one of the best opportunities that I had. So if you think about being a 20-year-old black child from Baltimore, and here you are in Mombasa, Kenya. First time women were on board ship that pulled in, and the day we pulled in, for miles and miles, all you could see was black people. First person I met when I came down off the ship said to me, "Welcome home, sister. You've been gone 200 years." And I was bawling. I was just bawling, right? So I got out of the Navy, knew I didn't want to go back to Baltimore because didn't want it free babysitting and people begging for money and all that good stuff, right? So decided to stay on the West Coast. Stayed in California for a while, worked in commercial real estate in California. But I found what drove me was what I did on the weekend. And on the weekend, I worked with Miss Wright's Food Kitchen at the park. And every Saturday and Sunday, we would just feed houseless people. And Miss Wright had been doing it before I moved to actually it was Oakland, California.
Okay.
Before I moved to Oakland, California, Miss Wright had been doing it for a decade at least. And it was all volunteers, and people knew they would come on a weekend and Miss Wright would feed them. And so I would jump up on a weekend, right? Commercial real estate, I wasn't jumping up for that, right? And so then I started looking around the country because I knew I couldn't afford a home in the Bay Area. Even then, can't imagine what people do today, right? And settled on Portland and Denver. And I actually came to Portland because I knew one person who lived in Portland that I could stay with until I found a job and an apartment and all that good stuff. And my very first job was with the Black United Fund of Oregon.
Black United Fund?
Yes.
That's when Ronnie basically.
Abina Anderson was the executive director.
Joyce and those folks.
Was
Joyce involved in it?
No,
Harris at the time?
not when I was there.
Okay,
no.
okay.
But I was on the board of the Black Education Center, and she was involved in that.
Okay,
yes.
okay.
And so came, and within 2 weeks, I had a job, an apartment. I was good to go.
Okay.
And the first thing people said, whatever you do, don't go into Northeast Portland, right? Because gangs are overrunning Northeast Portland, right? And of course, I got a job in Northeast Portland. I got.
What year was that about?
It was 1990.
90. Okay. Okay.
Yes. And so that was the rap, right?
Okay.
Gang activity everywhere, right? I'm from Baltimore,
Yeah,
so
I know you know gang.
I go in the Northeast and I went to kidding,
Where
right?
are the gangs?
Where are the gangs, right? Where's the public housing,
right?
Right. So what they told me to expect as compared to what I actually found was radically different. And so let's see. So first job, Black United Fund, and then I had the privilege of going to work for Bev Stein.
Yeah.
At Multnomah County.
Right. That's right.
And Bev Stein was the chair of the board of Multnomah County, the seat that Deborah Cafoy currently holds. And I didn't really trust politicians before I went to work for Bev, because I assumed politicians said one thing on one side of town or something else on the other side of town. But when I went to work for Bev, I just kind of watched her for about a year. And she was consistent. No matter who she was talking to, she really led with her values. And if she didn't know a topic, she was very unafraid to say, well, I don't know. But she would have a salon, and she would invite 10, 15 people to her house. It would be a very diverse group of people. They'd talk about the topic, and then she would decide, how she was going to move forward. So she was a wonderful model for how somebody could truly show leadership, right? And be responsive to things that they didn't have a lot of deep knowledge in. So I really considered her my mentor. And so when Ron Cease retired, Avell Gordley, State Representative Avell Gordley called and said, our state senator is retiring, and I'm going to run for his seat. And my response was, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? Who's going to represent me, right? Yeah. And her response was, you. And I just laughed. I thought that was the funniest thing I'd ever heard, right?
Yes.
I was like, Avell, when people ask me what I think, I tell them, right? And I don't think that's a good trait in politics, right?
Interesting.
And so she gave me an assignment. She said, I want you to make 50 phone calls, and I want you to call people from different segments that you've worked in since you've been here, right? So from business, schools, grassroots communities, etc., and tell them that you're thinking about running for this seat. And I did as she asked, and by the end of making those 50 calls, I was a candidate for the state representative position.
District 18.
District 18.
Right.
But of course now they flipped the numbers, so nobody will know what 18 was. But it was Northeast Portland.
That's right.
And it was right up next to the district that Margaret Carter was representing.
Interesting. Okay. So now where do we go from there? Now you're in the legislature.
So I'm in the legislature. I'm the only woman in my freshman class. Of course, I'm the only person of color. And there are 15 of us, right? And so the rest are white men, right? And I go, whoa. This is going to be interesting.
Okay.
But, we had a really good freshman class. And as I said in the clip that we watched, my job was to find something in common with every legislator in the building. Because you know, I needed to be able to count to 16 and 31, right? And without 16 and 31, I couldn't get anything done. I also had to learn to take my ego out of it, because if my name was on it, it was the death kill, right? A flaming liberal inner Northeast legislator and a Republican and a very starch Republican ideology legislative body. Ron Sinceri and I served on judiciary together. Kevin Mannix and I served on judiciary together. Kevin Mannix
Ballot
and
Measure 11.
Ballot
I
Measure.
think I remember that.
Actually, that was what put me over the top. It was on the same ballot that I was elected on, and I knew what the impact would be on kids of color, because that was already the impact of the criminal justice system. So all this was going to do was exacerbate it. And I just couldn't imagine sending 15-year-olds to adult prison, right? I just couldn't imagine us doing that. But we did, because Kevin Mannix voted on the kitchen table and went out and sold it, that this was a solution to Kip Kinkle. Now, how many school shootings have we had since Kip Kinkle, right? So clearly mandatory minimums don't work. And so I spent 3 terms in the legislature, and I should say we had term limits and we had campaign finance reform law when I ran the first time. So you could only serve 6 terms in the House. 6 years in the House, 8 years in the Senate, and you couldn't do a combination of more than 10 years, right? So if you started in the House, all you could do was 3 terms in the House. You started in the Senate, all you could do was 2 terms in the Senate. And $100 campaign limits, right, on contributions. So no PAC money, no corporation money, but strictly $100. So if all you can raise is $100, you're going to talk to the people who get the vote for you, and then you can ask them for $100, right? And that's what I did. And so I won. And I got reelected twice, and in fact was on both the Republican and Democratic ballot for my second 2 campaigns.
Interesting. Yeah. Now, what were some of the issues that you represent the constituency out here?
Well, you know,
were you able to get any of those approved?
What was interesting was people, and in fact, the Oregonian tried to paint me as the black legislator, right? Because when I went in for the endorsement interview, they were like, well, so tell me what you're going to bring that you're going to fix for the black community. And I said, well, you know, all the communities are the same. They want quality education. They want activities for kids to do after school. And they want to live in a safe, clean community, right? Everybody wants that, right?
Exactly.
And the Oregonian just kept pounding on this, like, and I finally said to them, you know, I'm not the black candidate, I'm not the woman candidate, but I am the best candidate for this position. Because since I've been here, I've been volunteering my time in a whole host of ways, right? Because I want to do something that matters in this community. And of course, they endorsed my opponent.
Who was that at the time?
Bill Stewart.
Bill Stewart.
Yes.
Okay,
And he didn't have as extensive a volunteer record as I had. But, you know, that's the way it works. But anyway, I won. I served my 3 terms. I left early in my last term to run for Multnomah County chair that Bev Stein had stepped down from to run for governor. I lost. Diane Lynn won because it was a 90-day election. And the law said that I could not raise a penny until I resigned from the legislative body. So I actually didn't raise a penny until I resigned from the legislative body. If that's what the law says, that's what I did, right? And of course, Diane had a head start because she wasn't actually in the legislative body. But, you know, her and I are friends today, and we still talk and chat. But yes, so that was my entree into the next public office. And then I lost, and I was like, okay, I'm fine. You know, life goes on. And so I went to work for Oregon Action, where I worked with primarily people on the downside of power to teach them the skills to advocate for their own best interests. We registered over 57,000 voters statewide in 2000 when I was leading that effort. And you know, my posse was primarily ex-felons, people who didn't know they could vote in Oregon, who went out and registered their colleagues, right, and their peer group, right? Because who better to tell an ex-felon they can vote than an ex-felon, right? We had such wonderful success in that effort that we then took on passing voter-owned election at the city of Portland. and we got that passed. My folks collected 15,000 postcards and presented it to the city council. And again, it was about using those voices from people who've been voiceless in our community and making sure that their voices are being considered in public policy. So let's see. So that was Oregon Action. When I left Oregon Action, I actually spent a year with my then boyfriend who was diagnosed with cancer, helping him recover from his throat cancer, surgery and radiation treatment. And that was about a year-long process. But knock on wood, he's healthy today.
Okay, great.
He's an ex-husband now.
Okay,
but,
okay,
you know, but,
okay.
but he's healthy, and that was, it was good to have that time, to be able to take that time.
Is that Bowman at that time?
No, that's Hardesty.
Hardesty.
Yes.
Okay, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And so after that, what did I do after that? Gosh, I do a lot of stuff.
Well, let's get in some of these other little areas.
All right.
Now, I know that, let's see, we started the cable. When did you get involved, cable? You were part of the family. I was part of that family.
Yeah, I think it was late 98. Let's see, I was still in the legislature. And Alan Graff and I started Voices from the Edge. Yes, and we started it because there was a public fight. You might remember this on Portland Public School Board, where two of the school board members were trying to out oppression. Oppressiveness, right? It's like one was a Jewish person, one was African American, and they were having this very public fight about whose people were harmed more, right? And Alan approached me about, let's do a program where we can show that a black and Jewish person can disagree without being disagreeable, right?
Knowing Alan, that's him.
Right? And what is it? It's been over 20 years that Voices from the Edge has been on Thursday mornings from 8 to 9. Yes.
Time just passed.
And I'm excited because I get to go back after I win.
Oh, really?
I do, yes.
Oh, wow. But at the same time...
Then it'll be Voices from the Edge of City Hall.
Oh, yes. So what you're saying is that if you win...
When
you win, you're going to continue, if you will, that voice.
Absolutely.
Okay, good. That communication. That's one of the areas. It's a needed thing.
Yeah, it's
very,
critical.
very much so.
Absolutely.
Now, during that particular time, you're such an active person. All of a sudden, you jump in this NAACP piece. I think at the time we were both involved, and you were vice president. I was vice president during that particular time, right?
Well, no, it was in the 90s that you and I were involved, right?
Was it the 90s?
It was in the 90s.
You see where my mind
I know. And it was actually early in my time here. But you're right. I was first vice president. I think you were second or third vice president. Roy J. was president at the time.
Yeah, we were all involved.
And you may remember that 13 of our 14-member executive committee resigned because National would not kick out people who were threatening the minister in his church during the NAACP meeting. So we just kind of walked away and said, okay.
You know, your time in the NAACP, and like me, you know, it's not like anything else. It seems like it's always a disorganized group, but it continues to meet. We're still involved. Talk a little bit about that.
As you know, Bruce, the NAACP has been very strong over the years, and it's been very weak. And everything depends on the leadership, right? Because when you can't pay people, when you are relying on people's goodwill, on people accurately describing their expertise and their skill set, and then sometimes you find out people don't have the skills that they thought they had, right? And so you have to replace them. Anybody who's ever been involved in a all-volunteer run nonprofit knows that sometimes you just have to do what you have to do to get the job done, right? But let me just say that there's been no embezzlement, there's been no theft, there has been no misappropriation of NAACP funds. Every penny that was raised is accounted for, right? And I think people who use dirty campaign tactics to win political advantage are people that don't have anything else. Because if you have a platform, if you have a vision, you don't need to tarnish someone else for you to advance where you want to go.
Well, I appreciate that because, again, that's one of the reasons why I'm doing this show. Because, in all due respect, this is a very serious race.
It is.
It's not a black seat.
No.
It's not representing just the black community.
No.
And the bottom line is it's representing the city of Portland.
Absolutely.
And so in all due respect, the voters wanted to know. You got my point?
I'm not mad.
I hear one thing about this historical thing, but that's, to me, the historical thing is that we got a problem. and how do we solve the problem?
Well, actually, the historic thing
I
is that
appreciate
we
that.
have never successfully implemented any city programs that were supposed to benefit people of color and women.
Right.
Never have,
right,
right?
right.
But yet the same people continue to get the contracts. There's no accountability when they don't reach their goals, right? And we just keep contracting with them as if, like, if we just keep doing it long enough, ultimately there'll be a couple of people of color and a couple of women.
When you come back, we'll talk about that. All right. Because I got a lot to say about that part too. I agree with you on that particular piece, big time. Okay, so now you've done it. Well, then the other thing that I thought was very interesting, while you were there, you came back and you became president of the NAACP, and all of a sudden you made that move. I thought that was interesting.
In 2010, the NAACP was pretty much on life support.
Yeah.
And I was running around trying to find somebody to be president, right? Because I didn't need another full-time voluntary job. And people kept saying to me, well, I'll do this if you run for president. And I'll do this if you run for president. And I will help, but I don't want to be president, right? And so ultimately I ran and won the position of president.
Okay.
Now, what should happen when a historic civil rights organization has new leadership is all the intellectual property, the bank accounts, the Facebook page, the website, all that should be turned over to the newly elected people so that we don't miss a beat, right? The last administration didn't do that. So here I am, new president. Like, well, what does that mean, right? How do you get into the bank account? Oh, we don't have a bank account. Oh, well, how do you get into Facebook? How do you change it up? Right? So we had to start from scratch, right? So I had to recruit people who had media expertise to build us a new Facebook page and a new website. I had to recruit people who had other skills to take on other roles within the organization. Because as you know, the NAACP is not about an individual, right? That's right. It's about collective action for a common good, right? And I am proud of the work that I did to rebuild both the credibility, the financial health, the advocacy, and the recognition that the NAACP now enjoys. I built a solid team. That team, I have every confidence, will take the NAACP to the next level. And I stepped down in March of this year, not because I had to, but because I did not want me being president of the NAACP to be a distraction from my race.
So you could have kept the seat.
I could have kept the seat. There's nothing in the bylaws that said I had to resign. There's nothing. There's nothing in the Constitution that says I have to resign. People can speculate all they want, but when you read the rules have no statement as far as NAACP presidents running for other things, right? So I was planning to do both until the end of the year, but I had 40 hours a week back, so I could use those to campaign now, right? So it worked out very well for me.
Good. Well, I know, knowing that the Posies and the Howard Williams have been there, you know what I'm saying, and you know how those guys are.
Yes.
You got me? And they're very solid guys for that matter.
You know, Posey's been one of my biggest champions from the beginning. August of last year, he even went canvassing last week for me.
Did he?
Yes, he did.
Oh, that James. Well, he ran for mayor. You know, he ran for mayor that time.
And he tells us, yes.
I know he tells it constantly. Because he tells me every so often. That's true too. Got me? But no, I thought sure that would. I want to thank you very much for doing that.
You're very welcome.
In fact, even to the point that I'm getting ready to get back in.
All right.
I got to get back in today.
You're gonna get back in?
I was going to be in there yesterday, but first I said no. I just got to stay away from things. And I got to have this interview. Got me? But I understand you were there.
I was.
You were there.
I was.
Wasn't it? You've been at all of the meetings.
No, I mean no. I've been campaigning.
You've been campaigning.
Now,
But you went to this meeting.
I went to this meeting specifically because I wanted to make sure that I was appointed to the elections committee.
Okay.
Because I want to make sure that there's no shenanigans going on behind the scenes that tries to undermine a solid leadership team.
I got you. That's a great deal. That's a good deal. Now, you're running for office.
Yes, I am.
You're on the campaign trail.
Yes.
What are the issues?
Well, let me tell you, August of last year, I met with Dan Saltzman, looked him in the eye and said, Dan, I've known you for a lot of years. I knew you when you were county commissioner. I've known you the whole time you've been on the city council. I'm coming today to tell you that I'm running for your seat.
Yes.
He was shocked. because apparently in Portland, you don't actually look somebody in the eye and say, I'm running for your seat. Guess they're supposed to read it in the paper or something, right? And of course, his question was, why?
Yeah.
And I said, well, I just think we've been here a long, 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 long time.
Yes.
And he's been here 18 years,
Yes.
right?
Wow.
2.5 weeks later, he decided he was going to retire after all, even though he was raising money, seeking endorsements, and had already publicly announced. What I heard from him was, just give me one more year, and then I'll retire. And I mean, one more term, and then I'll retire. And I thought, nobody just like is entitled to one more term, right?
Right.
The day I knew we had the wrong people at City Hall was the day I showed up to vote on the police contract. And there were riot police outside City Hall. Gang enforcement, Homeland Security, Portland Police, Gresham Police, right, surrounding City Hall. I called the NAACP lawyer. We got to sue because it can't be legal to put riot police outside City Hall when you're having a public policy vote, right? She called me back and said, if one city council member had objected, the mayor would not have been able to do that. But because nobody did, it was absolutely legal. That's the day I knew we had the wrong people. So what are the issues? Access, housing and houselessness, good green jobs, police accountability, and transportation infrastructure. Those are the big issues.
Now, as you know, you're not running for mayor. You're kind of like running for sort of a mini mayor because we don't have any. We don't have any respective district. I mean, you got to run citywide, right?
I run citywide.
You run citywide. You run
I am running citywide. That is correct.
But at the same time, like I said, you know, you're going to be sitting there as city commissioner.
Yes.
And like I said, you're going to be having to respond to, in all due respect, to all of the city folks. Anybody calls, right? But we've not districtized. The city's not like Multnomah County.
Well, actually,
What do you
it's just the opposite. At the city, the mayor's only power is to assign bureaus. And the mayor has already stated that the bureaus that Commissioner Dan Saltzman currently has, the new commissioner will have when they take office.
Oh, he really did say that?
Yes.
He said that?
Yes, in writing and
He's not going to change his mind.
Well, he could, because that's the only power he has, is to assign bureaus.
Okay.
But I'm not a commissioner that's going to work in a silo.
Okay.
Because, as I said, the issues I mentioned,
Yes.
none of those are in my portfolio, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to work on them, right? Just like Commissioner Chloe U. Daly, she won't stay in her lane. I'm not someone who stays in my lane, right?
No,
and the mayor knows this. I mean, he knows me well. I've known him for a long time. Because I think if I've got the right bureau directors and I'm in constant communication with the directors of those bureaus, there's no reason for me to be at City Hall all day, every day, behind that big desk, right? I should be out in the community talking to people who are being impacted by the public policy decisions that we're making. I want to move City Hall meetings at least once a month out of City Hall, out of downtown, right? Move it to North Portland, move it to East Portland, move it to the evening so that people who work for a living and students can actually participate,
that's
right?
one of the main problems.
And it should be our goal to remove barriers so that people can participate.
And you'll still be doing the cable piece.
Oh, yeah.
You'll still be doing the cable piece. Okay.
I will still be doing the
Another
cable
area
piece.
that people talk about, and they've seen you quite a bit along that line, is the whole issue of police.
Yes.
And I see Daryl Turner, and I see Joanne Hardesty.
I've spent a lot of time with Daryl Turner.
You do a lot of time with these person, and now there's a new chief, on board with the mayor.
Yes.
Okay, you got me. But now, when one's thinking about the whole issue of police, what do you feel about that? As far as that bureau, I mean, I realize the mayor typically is the police commissioner.
I did ask him for it, and he said no. Yes,
he said no.
I said you'll probably say no, and he said no. Yeah,
he said no.
But that's okay.
Okay.
I don't have to have it to work.
So you're
very
not going to say anything about the whole issue of police when you're sitting?
Well, no. Of course I am. I will still be me, Bruce. I won't change at all. And so for me. First, I love having a police chief named Outlaw, right? Isn't that the coolest thing, right?
That's cool.
It's cool to have a police chief named Outlaw. But having said that, we are asking the police to do things that are totally outside their skill set. Police will never solve our mental health crisis. Police will not resolve our housing crisis. And when we use that part of our public safety system, like we did last year, where 52% of the people prosecuted were prosecuted for crimes that, but for being homeless, they would have never been prosecuted, like trespassing, public urination, interfering with a peace officer, right? we cannot criminalize our way out of our housing crisis, right? Police are the wrong first responders for people with mental health issues. How about firefighters? They don't kill people who don't do what they tell them to do, right? In fact, 80% of their calls are medical calls. So they're accustomed to coming in with a healthcare frame of mind, not with bullets blazing, right? I still have that picture of the gentleman in the recovery meeting at the church, where 10 police officers with rifles and riot gear, another 10 officers behind them, a police dog, and they knew the guy was suffering from a mental health issue, and they executed him.
Was that
in
the
that
one
church.
where the county sheriffs were involved in it? Remember that one?
Yes.
That's what I'm saying.
Yes.
What do you think about that? I mean, it just blew my mind that a person in green would have shot someone that way.
Well, I mean, that's not the first time. I mean, I don't know how. I think because of Reese.
Yeah, Reese. Yeah,
Right.
Reese was a former chief at one point
As
in
the
time.
former Portland police chief, who
Okay.
was not someone that was trustworthy as Portland police chief. Now that he's sheriff, he's embedding those sheriffs into police operations in ways that I don't think they should be involved. And we need to get police out of the social service arena and out of the mental health arena, right? How about actually having mental health professionals be first responders for people with mental health issues? You've never heard of a hospital, a mental health facility, harming or killing someone because they have a mental health issue, right? So we got to change the dynamic. It is inappropriate to send police to do a job that they're just not prepared. They don't have the skill set to do, right? And so we have to change that. And we can change that. And I don't have to be the police commissioner to change that.
Right.
I can work with Chief Outlaw. I can make sure that we are revising their training curriculum. I can make sure that we have community members side by side with police officers training the next generation of Portland police officers. I do that training in Salem at the Department of Public Safety Standard and Practices, but Mike Reese would never let me in the Portland training facility.
Interesting.
He told me that I would tell the criminals their secrets. That's exactly what he said right to my face, right?
Really?
Yes. So I just don't have a good feel for him, right? When he pretends that he's going to protect the immigrants, when ICE agents have to go by county sheriffs in order to get into the courthouse to arrest people, right? So I just don't have a lot of trust in him.
Wow. Any other areas that you think you might, as far as the seat is concerned, what other areas of concerns that you might have?
Well, you know, the interesting thing is I've had 130 house parties in every corner of the city of Portland. Whether I'm talking to people in Southwest Portland or East Portland, where I live. But before I go there, Southwest and East Portland have a lot in common, right?
Okay.
Most people don't think that would be true, right? We think Southwest Portland is all rich and they got it going on, right? Well, parts of Southwest and East Portland were annexed into the city of Portland at the exact same time. Both were promised sidewalks, lights, infrastructure improvements. Neither got them, right? So I told the folks in Southwest, what if you join forces with the folks in East Portland, right? And then you will be a bigger coalition, right? And because you're the ones who were promised public services that you never got. Now today, PDOT says, well, it costs too much to put sidewalks.
PDOT.
I'm sorry, Portland Department of Transportation.
Okay.
Yes, I try not to talk in acronyms.
You're getting at the seat already.
Right. I'm already in mode. I'm already in mode.
Yes.
Portland Department of Transportation says, well, it's too expensive to put sidewalks in, right, in East Portland and Southwest Portland. But it's never going to be cheaper than it is today, right? And if we're not planning to do it, then we'll never do it, right? So same with lighting, right? Community members built a trail through the park so that low-income kids could actually have a safe place to walk to get up to the street, so they could cross the street to take the school bus, right?
Wow.
Not the city. The community came together and did it. The city doesn't want them to do that anymore. The city wants them to get permits to do that, right? That's crazy.
Oh, wow.
Wouldn't you just applaud community members with initiative?
Wow.
And so what we know is the city is facing a whole host of issues. We had 45,000 people move here last year. We expect another 45,000 this year. People are freaking out because their neighborhoods will change, right? And I will not buy into the NIMBYism. What I tell everybody that I go talk to is we must have housing at every income level in every neighborhood in Portland. No one's exempt, right? And so that means we got to think differently about how we build housing. We have to make sure that we are building multi-family, multi-generational housing, shared housing, that we're building triplexes and fourplexes, and that we're removing barriers so that folks can do that, right? Because folks are coming. We can't put up we can't build a fence, a wall, right?
That's right.
We have to prepare for the people who are coming, and we have to make sure we're not leaving people behind who have lived here and can't afford first, last security deposit, pet deposit, and pet rent to live in the city of Portland. Pet rent is a new phenomenon, right? $30 to $50 per month per pet, right? When I talked to the mayor's office, they said, well, you know, pets, that's a luxury. I said, not when you have one, because when you have one, that's like telling you to leave one of your kids behind, right? I'm sorry, you can only get a 2-bedroom, right? Which kid you going to leave behind, right? It's crazy.
You know, Joe, look here. Again, like I said, I wanted them to get this feel for you at the beginning of this deal.
Right.
And the whole idea is that this particular show, hopefully, will be shared with the media.
Right.
You got me? So they can get down to the issues and get away from these so-called negatives. Because it's so important that they interview you as a candidate for that seat. Very important.
You know, I had got the Oregonian, I got the Portland Mercury, I got the Scanner, I got the
then you got the union. You got.
I have ASME from the employees
from the
at
county,
the city of Portland. I bought you a present. Because
wait a minute. Now.
No, well, I just want you to see this now. As a former. As a former Marine.
You got DD-214 there.
Yes.
You guys provided my checks. I mean, I got that.
Right. Well, the Navy, right.
Well, this is the United States Navy. There it is.
Yes. So
honorably discharged.
I have read.
From the Armed Forces of the United States of America. Yeah.
I have heard accusations.
That's why we're doing it. But that happens. You know that.
Well, not from people who know me. Or it shouldn't.
What am I doing here? This is it? What do you got? Oh, you wanted to see the. Oh, okay, good. There we go. Here it is, right here, folks.
And so, is that forged?
Honorably discharged.
Does that look like that's fake? You have one of those, don't you?
Oh, yes, I do.
Right.
Yes, I do. I got one of these.
And what is this?
That's a DD-214.
Right.
And I'm reaching out to vets now.
Yes,
Are you
did.
getting your bennies right now? You're not going through that process.
I'm not going through. I'm not as old as you yet.
Michael,
I'm getting there.
Hey, cut that off. Will you? Cut that off. Anyway, I'm going to get it anyway, regardless.
And here's a copy, and I didn't have the original because, I graduated.
We wasn't going there, but I hear it's okay, cool.
Right.
Here's the high school diploma.
Right.
Here's the high school diploma. Has been awarded to Joanne Allen.
Yes.
There she is.
That was
Allen,
me.
That's you.
I was Allen, right?
High school
I was
program.
Allen before I was Bowman and before I was Hardesty.
Wow, June 1975.
Right.
Wow.
And so I have seen things online that say that I was dishonorably discharged.
But that's part of the deal now. Come on.
But
when
why?
You responded.
Why?
But hey, that's part of the deal. Freedom of speech.
No.
Facts.
Wait. No. I disagree with you.
That's where the media comes in.
No, dirty politicking. There's no place for dirty politicking. No place, right?
Well, that's what we all say.
Right, but I have not done anything against any segment of our community. I was going to show you what great grades I got while I was in the military.
Let me see them grades. Let me see those grades. I knew you would. Let's see.
They said they loved me.
Look at you. Oh, yeah.
That was when I was younger and dumber.
Oh, wow. This lady's right there, boy.
And so, but I think it's important for we, the community, to set a standard, right?
Yes.
Right, we have a seat that's open because the incumbent is retired.
Yes.
When I first took on this race, it was about not even, I wasn't even going to do anything negative against Dan. It was all about who am I and what skills do I bring to this job, right?
I know that.
I am not going to let anybody take me off of that plan.
But like I say, stick to the issues now.
Always.
We got this together.
But see,
stick to the issues.
One Portland.
Let's put it this way. This is going to be your flyer.
That has been my flyer.
You're gonna send this one out again?
This has been mailed.
Okay.
This was very prominent during the primary election. We have new pieces in the work with our new video that people will be getting soon.
All right.
But you know, it's good for
You got it
people.
all, yeah.
And again, for me, it's been about
One Portland for all of us.
One Portland for all of us,
That's
right?
That's a good brand. That's
to
a good
not
brand.
divide
There you go.
us.
That is right there.
Right?
See it? There it is right there. There it is right there. Now what we're gonna do is this. Trust me. Now you got to go out and knock on some doors.
We have already knocked on 25,000 doors.
God. Well, you know,
I told you I had 130 house parties.
Wow.
I'm a community organizer.
I know that, buddy. Come on
Right?
now. I mean, so here's the deal. I want to invite you back later on. Later on after you knocked on the doors, and if there's some other issues that comes up as a result, and things will happen because people want to know about this, that, and the other, and we'd like for you to come back on and again.
It will have to be after the next 42 days because I'm going to be a little busy.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
I'd be happy to come back.
About that time, just hey, give me a yell and tell the voters again just exactly what it is. And if there's any changes or anything of that nature, we want to share it.
Well, I appreciate that.
I offered, like I said, I offered it to the other candidates.
Right.
However, she didn't show up for this piece.
Right.
So
It's
the
all
bottom
good.
line, all I can do now is wait until the next time around.
That's right.
That's all I
very
can do,
true.
okay?
Well, I just want to thank you because
bud.
it's
It's been a while.
wonderful to be able to actually share who I am. I'm an
Especially
open
with
book.
two hosts.
Yeah.
This was hard for me to do, but it was good. It
was
fun.
good, right?
It was fun.
Yes,
we
yes.
enjoyed it. I enjoyed it very much.
I did
really
as well.
Okay.
I thank you very much. And
I'll see you on the trail, buddy.
yes, and
All right.
November 6th
There you
is
go.
Election Day.
That's right.
And October 16th is the last day to update or register to vote.
And that's my birthday.
October 16th?
But you need to tune in on that deal because I'll have something to say.
October 15th is my birthday.
Is that you got to be kidding me?
Nope.
No wonder we were always butting heads. 15 and 16 Libras.
Libras, that explains it.
No,
ding, ding.
No,
I had no idea.
I had no idea.
That's too funny.
Wow. Hey, folks, we're going to take a short break. I got someone out in the audience here who's another video media journalism aspect of it. I'd like to get his little take real quick.
All right.
Okay, good. We're going to take a short break and we'll bring him right on. Take care.
You are watching Oregon Voters Digest. This program can be seen again on these channels on these dates and times. Tell a friend.
Well, you got the interview, and right up front with you, we've only about 4 minutes or so, and I thought I'd bring this gentleman in here, Michael Strickline. And Mike's going to be here real quick. I had him looking on the side, and the reason why I got him here is that he's also a journalist in his own way. He's a video photographer aspect of it. He's out on the street dealing with the people, and i.e. I'm asking him right up front, he's out there dealing with the people of Portland aspect of it, and I'm asking him point blank, what do you think about the interview, and have you ever seen Joanne Hardesty out there on the deal?
Oh, yeah, I see Joanne Hardesty out at a lot of events over the years. Okay. Whether it's informal protest on the street sort of thing or a more formal thing, like if I recall, she's been involved with like the Portland Police Gang Task Force stuff, if I recall correctly. So, you know, I see her in, you know, some of those more official, formal capacities as well. But yeah, she's out there everywhere.
She's out there.
Yeah.
She's out there. And you're on the street. I mean, a lot of times people don't understand the kind of journalism that you are all about. You're a video photographer aspect of it, and it's not easy work, and it's tough work aspect of it. Compared to the commercial aspect of it, of media aspect of it, they get tough. Chat a little bit about that. Real quickly.
I mean,
what do you do?
Well, what I did do till a judge banned me from doing it was,
right.
You know, I filmed a lot of protests on the street,
Right.
a lot of political events. You know, I covered a lot of the politicians' town halls. I covered a lot of things that were going on at the local colleges that were just flying under the radar from mainstream media.
Right.
And what you were just talking about there, as far as the more commercial media guys go, I think the work that I did, and who some of the other folks who have now started doing that, I think it's funner in a lot of ways than what the mainstream people have to do, because we're less inhibited than they are. You know, we're more free to put up, you know, the things that we want out
But it
there.
can be dangerous work. I mean, I think about Leo Stratton, who I've known Leo for quite some time, and all of a sudden, he's in a very, the guy just died, just like that, and he was there all the time, very committed. That's dangerous work too at times, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, here's the thing: is, you know, the protests in particular, you know, they'll tab these as family-friendly, peaceful events.
Yeah.
You know, some of them are, a lot of them are, and then a lot of them, despite the fact that it says that they're you know, marketing it as that, they do end up turning violent.
Wow.
You know, and what I find interesting is either the people who run the protests are completely naive, or they know that trouble is going to go down. You know, because a lot of times when the black bloc anarchists or these Antifa guys show up and things do get violent and out of hand, that's when you see the protest organizers, such as Greg McKelvey or Teresa Rayford, they'll just sort of shrug it off and go, oh, those guys weren't part of our protest. Yeah, they were. You can't invite everybody, say your event is completely inclusive, and then not take responsibility for what people are doing when you know that that's fairly common at a lot of these things. And when you see these people in the crowd, they call it blocking up. You know, when you see them in the crowd with their black bloc gear on, it's a pretty good indication that they're going to be causing some trouble.
This is not just a bunch of black folks, right?
Right. When I say black bloc, that is not reference to race. That's reference to
McKelvey and Teresa Rayford. You know, we know who they are. But my point is that there's a whole bunch of other folks.
Oh yeah, you know, Jesse Sponberg. You know, yeah.
But my point is that, again, it's freedom of speech. But the bottom line, in terms of what you do, that's freedom of speech also.
Yes.
That's a very important piece. And too often the commercial media side of that don't really get down to the causes of the problem, because that's the only way you're going to get to the solution.
Yeah, and that's one of the things
and
that...
we got a problem in Portland with that deal.
I think we got a lot of problems around in Portland.
That's why I wanted to mention this situation with this particular race. It's a very important race. It's a very serious race. We need more people on city council that, in all due respect, we can address this issue. But if you're going to address the issue, you have to have been there.
Right.
In many ways, you have to have been there.
Right.
You know, you've been there, and in all due respect to Joanne Bowman, that's why I wanted to make the point about her being there. And, you know, then we got the other candidate, but in all due respect, they've got their own style, if you will.
Right.
You know,
it seems like Joanne is the grassroots activist choice, whereas Loretta Smith would be more the establishment choice.
Yes. But my point is, it's like saying, what do we need today? That's in terms of on that particular body aspect of it. And I think she'd make I'm just being straight up with you. She'd make a hell of a candidate. She would help Wheeler too in many ways too, because he didn't have that background.
Yeah, well, a lot of the politicians don't have the background that's needed for what they're doing, but some of them are good at fundraising, and that's how they end up in their positions.
Look, I've got about 20 more seconds here, and I want you to know you're going to be seeing Mike here quite a bit, because I want him to tell his story. But in the process of telling that story, we'll be understand a little bit more the justification and the need, if you will, for the kind of work that he does. Mike, it's always a pleasure. I'll see you next week.
Thanks for having me.
See you next week?
Yes.
Okay, good. Folks, that's it. Have a good one. I hope you enjoyed the show. Tell your friends. Tell everybody. Enjoy the show. It's on YouTube.